So in this short session, we are going to focus on giving our back a whole bunch of love in a very short amount of time. So we're going to be doing this on our hands and knees. You could also do fists and knees, elbows resting on blocks if that makes this more comfortable for you. So as you come onto your hands and knees, we're going to think about spreading our fingers, kind of imagining that we had suction pads on the pads of each of our fingers and we're pressing them down towards the floor. And we're going to just pause here to breathe for a moment, allowing the breath to really fill the full circumference of your lower rib cage so that as you breathe, you sort of notice the way that your rib cage can expand towards the sides of the room, up towards the ceiling, and even down towards the floor. And as we continue to breathe, we're going to start to let that movement impact the movement of the body. So next time you are exhaling, we're going to think about rounding the spine towards the ceiling. So as you exhale, tucking your tail, tucking your chin, pressing down through your hands. And then as you inhale, we're going to lift our head and lift our tail. Now, if sort of thinking about coordinating this with your breath just doesn't feel good for you today, that's okay. Just breathe and move as you feel sort of ready for that. It doesn't have to be coordinated if that doesn't feel good. But if it does, then we're thinking about inhaling as we find that lift of the head and tail, exhaling as we round. Let's just do that 2 more times, noticing what you feel and where you feel it. Really pressing down into the fingers, feeling that breadth across the shoulders at the back of the body. And then we're going to pause and come through neutral. We're going to take our right hand and lift it away from the floor and thread it in underneath our left arm. So we're going to thread it across. We're not going to quite come all the way to the floor. So you're just going to kind of reach, let your chest rotate, and then come back out through center. Then with that right hand, we're going to lift the elbow towards the ceiling. So we're going to come in and under like we were going to kind of bring our right shoulder to the floor, but we're not going to quite land. And then we're going to come out and lift the elbow towards the ceiling like we're a little puppet. So we're kind of starting to find a little bit of rotation through the upper part of our back in particular. So you might exhale as you twist underneath your arm, if that feels good. And you might inhale as you lift your elbow. But again, if that doesn't really make sense for you, doesn't feel good to try to think about that many things, just enjoy the movement. Good, last one in each direction. And then when you come back, we'll plant that right hand down and do the same thing on the left. So we're lifting that left hand off, threading it in and underneath that right armpit. And then coming back through center, lifting your elbow, letting your chest rotate with you. So we're kind of rotating both directions here. We rotate off to the right and then we rotate off to the left. Good. Maybe exhaling as you reach here, inhaling as you lift the elbow. Just see what feels good. There's no one right way. So be willing to play with what feels good in your body. And then as you plant that left hand back down again, once more we return to our hands and our knees. Now we're going to take our right leg straight back. And we're going to just find a little tilt of our pelvis. So we're going to lift our tail, get a little arch in our back, and then we're going to tuck it and find that sort of sense of rounding through the back. So we're lifting the tail and then tucking the tail. And we're just going to pause in a moment in that space in between. So we're not in a tuck, we're not in a lift, we're in this place where we're neutral, pelvis and rib cage kind of looking towards each other. And we're going to try and hold that really nice and still as we lift the right foot from the floor. And then we're going to tap the foot down. So you can point your toes, you can have them tucked under, whatever feels good. And we're going to lower and lift somewhere between 5 and 10 times. But we're going to try to keep the rib cage and the pelvis in that neutral sort of stacked position as we do this lift. So as you lift your leg, we're not arching through the back. We're trying to keep it neutral. And we're breathing, not clenching our teeth, taking a break at any point if we need to. And then after you've done as many as you want to do, planting that knee back in underneath your hip, and we'll round up through the spine. Let's do that on the left. So we'll take the left leg back. We're going to find that little tuck and lift a few times, just sort of noticing how it changes what you feel through the center of your body when you change the position of your pelvis. And then finding that in-between point. It's the sense that the rib cage and the pelvis are kind of looking towards each other, connected to each other. And then holding that nice and still, we're going to lift the left leg and then tap the toes down. And again, we're just doing somewhere between 5 and 10-ish. I'm not very good at counting, so who knows? Maybe you do a few, maybe you do more than a few. Can you continue to breathe slowly in and out through your nose if that's available? Can you keep the back from sort of coming into a big bend? So our focus is on holding that rib cage pelvis nice and stable as possible, just moving the leg within that confine. So it might be that you don't lift very high, and that's okay. And then next time you bring the foot down, let's bring the knee in underneath the hip. Big round up through the spine once more. And then bringing your bottom back towards your heels. Now, if this position is not comfortable for you, you can always keep your bottom higher and bring your forehead down to rest on 2 fists or even on a small stool or a yoga block. Or if it's comfortable to bring your bottom to your heels, you might even separate your knees a little bit, bring your forehead to the floor onto your fists, and just pause here for a few breaths. And again, imagine that you can breathe into the full circumference of your rib cage and feel the way that your back, the way that your rib cage, the way that your whole torso responds to that breath. And then when you're ready, you can roll yourself all the way up. Maybe you decide that you're going to do more from here and you lie down to rest or go somewhere next. But if you are moving into the rest of the day, taking that same sense of curiosity, self-kindness, compassion towards yourself into whatever the day holds. I'll look forward to seeing you again soon.